Good evening, 7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. We ask if you have a phone to make sure it's on silence. Ken, would you call the roll, please?
He's ready to do the pledge. Commissioner Larson.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Wagner.
Here.
Excuse me. Mr. Seeler.
Here.
Chair Gerard.
Here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Stender.
Here.
And last but not least, Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Thank you.
We ask if you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair is looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented or with changes.
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a motion and a second. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Chair is looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented or with changes.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the, of item B on the consent agenda, but I wish to handle item A on the consent agenda separately.
So you want to pull item A from the consent agenda?
Yes, please.
Okay. Any other? Hearing none. Take a motion to approve the consent agenda, item B, site plan approval for Chase Bank, 1232 Broadway Avenue West. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Susan, you asked to have the Planning Commission meeting minutes pulled?
Yes, please. I'm going to abstain on that particular item.
Okay. Any other comments on the meeting minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the Planning Commission meeting minutes from April 10th, 2024, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I abstain, sir.
I will abstain as well. I was not here.
Motion carries. Our first regular agenda item is a public hearing for a preliminary and final plat for, and I apologize for massacring this, but I'm going to give it a go at Gaiovnik Estates, 7902 North Shore Trail. This is a public hearing, so the way this will work this evening is the staff will present the application as they understand it. Planning commissioners will ask any questions they have regarding the application, clarification, etc. When that's complete, we'll ask if the applicant wishes to add anything to it, or we may have questions for the applicant. Then we will have the public hearing. In the public hearing, everyone who wishes to speak to this issue will be invited up. I'll give further directions at that time. After the public hearing, it'll come back for a decision by the Planning Commission. So that's how this will work. So I believe, Ken, you're presenting?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chair. Thank you. As you introduced, this is a request for preliminary and final plat for the property on the screen at 7902 North Shore Trail. It's named Gaiovnik. Thank you, Chris. Estates is the proposed plat name. And I'll run through some of the highlights of our staff report for you. Oh, sure, come on. The proposed preliminary plat for that property does include 4 lots. One for the existing house at 7902 North Shore Trail, and hopefully this will open up shortly. The second lot for another house on the north side of North Shore Trail, and then 2 small outlots on the south side of North Shore Trail. So there, if approved, there will be 1 additional lot and house available on that property. Well, let's see if this one will work. Come on. The subject property is about 8 acres in size, and about 5.15 acres are wetland area, leaving about 2.95 acres. I apologize, my computer's not playing nice. As high ground potentially developable. Again, the plat shows 2 lots for the single-family homes on the north side.
Excuse me, Ken?
Yep,
I know the bulk of the guests this evening are interested in this, so until you can get your
Okay.
AV going, we'll just kind of sit here for a minute.
yep. Hang on, let's see what I can do here.
Thank you.
Okay, that works. Sometimes it's. Come on. Just don't know. That one worked. Why the others are not loading? Most unfortunate. There we go, thank you.
Thank
This
you.
is, again, I'll enlarge it, shows the proposed preliminary plat with the grading plan. Again, existing house at 7902 North Shore Trail. A second lot here, which is, actually, this is the property line here for the second house that would be built here. And for those who were at the neighborhood meeting, this is an updated plan since that meeting. They have shifted the house further to the east and moved the driveway further to the east to be closer to the existing driveway as was discussed at the neighborhood meeting. Again, so one large lot with the existing house, smaller lot here, and then the two outlots, actually here and here, on the south side of North Shore Trail. There would be no public improvements with this project or this plat. Again, creating a lot for this home, doesn't require any. There's an existing sanitary sewer line that runs north-south in this area, serves the existing home, would also have a service for this home, which I believe is shown right here. Each lot will have a well for their water, private water needs. All the lot sizes meet our city standards. It's hard to read, but this one has just over 25,000 square feet of buildable area, and that is the minimum number that is required, minimum square footage. Part of any plat, any subdivision that comes through the city, we look and study what our park dedication requirements are, as allowed by state law in our subdivision ordinance. And in this case, by creating a second buildable lot, now they'll have two lots. We're recommending a park dedication fee of $2,500 per lot for a total of $5,000 for this property. One thing that we've found, and we'll go back to this one, this whole area of North Shore Trail, including this triangular piece of land here with the 3 sheds or garages, is all owned now by the applicant. The property line comes down here. They are proposing as part of the plat to dedicate this entire area to the city for street right-of-way for North Shore Trail. So that's just over 8/10 of an acre that will be dedicated to the city for the roads, the existing roads. The sheds I touched on that are here, staff is recommending as a condition of approval that they be removed because the plat, when it's dedicated to and recorded, this will now become city-owned property, and the city doesn't want private sheds on public property. Another concern I should say that was brought up at our neighborhood meeting was about the wetlands, and has the watershed district reviewed this, and are they aware of it? And I confirmed with them after the meeting that they have seen the plan, they've confirmed the wetland delineation. It's a little hard to read here, but this boundary is correct. That was done back in 2020. That hasn't changed. The watershed district is noted that to me in their comments that the new home construction will require a review and a permit from the watershed district to ensure sediment and erosion control measures are put in place before and during construction, which is a pretty standard permit for any house. And they also confirmed, the Washington Conservation District confirmed with me that they didn't, to them it did not appear there would be any additional negative impacts to the wetlands by having the one home as shown. Our city engineer's only comment on this proposal was to ensure that the city get a 20-foot wide drainage and utility easement over the sewer line, because now it will serve more than one home. And they have shown this, again, it's hard to see on this plan, that easement as required by our city engineer. Again, the watershed districts will require a permit before this construction can start here. I touched on our neighborhood meeting we had on April 24th. I think there was 6 neighbors there, plus the applicant. Talked about the driveway, and it'd be nice if it could be shifted, which they've done. There's concerns about wetlands. Another concern that was expressed was about drainage. There's a culvert that comes under North Shore Trail on this general location. Excuse me, helps drain a lot of this area even to the north. And as part of this plat too, and this right here describes it, they will be dedicating a drainage and utility easement over all this wetland area, including the ditch. And that will then give the city the legal right to go in and maintain and clean out that ditch if we need to, which right now it's on private property and we do not have the easement rights to do that work. So if needed, or when it's needed, that having that easement in place will give us that opportunity as a city to take care of the ditch. Let's see. Now I'll touch on the outlots. Again, there's outlot B, it's this little one. Outlot A is here. Excuse me. And these are put in place by the surveyor because of something called judicial monuments. And that was a process that was done in the past because there was property boundary disputes on these lots, and as I understand it, some of the other ones along North Shore Trail. And judicial monuments are monuments that are set by a surveyor after a court process and a court hearing. When there's a dispute about property lines, it goes to a court, a judge, and they get an order from the court saying, no, here's where the new boundary is going to be, which is down here. Well, the current property line still shows A and B as part of the applicant's property. So by creating the 2 outlots, they will not be public right-of-way, they will be privately owned with the intention of accruing to the 2 adjoining properties to the south, no longer owned by the owner, the applicant, and it will help clear up any confusion or discrepancy on who owns what there. It's something that, because those monuments are in place and the surveyor found them, they are really required by state law to include those in the plat and have those called out, so they have done so. In the staff report for the commission, outlined our preliminary plat review criteria and our review criteria for final plats. And in both those cases, what the criteria says is, here's a list of reasons why the city should deny a request. None of those criteria were met with this proposal. In fact, it meets all our city requirements. So we're recommending approval. They don't meet those denial standards that are in our code. So lastly, on page 7 of this report, which is page 64 in your packets, we're recommending, as chairman introduced, that the commission hold a public hearing, take comments, close the hearing and discuss preliminary and final plats, again, for this 4 lots with the 2 existing homes and the 2 outlots. And we're recommending this be approved subject to the 15 conditions in the staff report. I will not read through all of them, but they include that the applicant or owner get all the necessary permits from the watershed district before starting any work on the construction of this new home on this lot. And just to be clear, this is a recommendation from the commission. This will go to the city council probably on May 28th, and they will make the final decision whether to approve or not. I think with that, I'll stop and take questions from the commission.
Commissioners, questions? Susan?
North is up on our map, so east is to the right as we look at it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when you when you were talking about it, where did the driveway move? And it's really important to me that there not be a shared
They
driveway
are not.
for
we-
these two properties.
We had that discussion at the neighborhood meeting, and I told the neighbors that the city would not support that. Let me slide this over. This shows it a little better. Here's the proposed driveway here.
Okay,
It was over more in this location, so it shifted
Okay.
closer to this property line.
and with respect to Lot 2, there is a future outbuilding proposed there that looks of significant size. Can, on this zoning type, what are the permissions for an outbuilding? Because if we approve this plat, it does include the outbuilding,
No,
no?
it just shows that this is a location that could be built. The plat, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Please,
only creates the lots.
okay,
It doesn't guarantee what could be built or not built, other than it creates a lot that a house could be built on here.
Okay.
Doesn't, but to answer your question, maximum size is probably allowed 1,500 or 2,000 square feet, based on the acreage of this lot being more than 5 acres.
and the zoning code allows for an accessory building of that type.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions of staff? None? We asked if the applicant would like to add anything to what staff has added, or
Chris,
Please.
if you step up to,
I ask you to step up, state your name and address for the record, please.
Chris Gaiovnik, 7902 North Shore Trail, Forest Lake. Concerning that outbuilding in the back, I was just having him draw something on there for future down the road, just to see if it would fit. That's not something we're trying to do right now anyways. So that was just a thing I had him add on there, because I wasn't sure what was possible to do back there. Other than that, pretty much bent over backwards to get everything we could possibly think of included for the city, the right-of-ways and the delineations. I've done soil engineering reports. In fact, I did go to the watershed district and get the permit and met with Mike yesterday. I have the receipt for that. He had no problem with that. He helped me draw up what we needed to draw up. Our sewer's already in and stubbed out. The power's already ran back there for something like this. And I said we meet every possible requirement that the city wants. So,
Any questions of the applicant? Thank you. We may have questions after the public hearing.
all right, thanks.
This is a public hearing. The way this will work is that we ask if anyone who wishes to speak to this application, step up to the mic, to the lectern. Please state your name and address for the record. Spend a couple minutes giving us your thoughts on this application. Once we have heard from everyone in the room who wishes to speak, as well as anyone online or any emails to be read in, we will close the public hearing, and then it'll come back for just discussion with the Planning Commission. So we do take public input. There's not a lot of discussion necessarily, but we'll make sure everything's clear. So with that, we will open the public hearing at 7:19 PM. Does anyone wish to speak to this application?
Hello, my name's Keith Coonley. I'm at 7841 North Shore Trail. Ken, you mentioned that the plot has changed, or the drawings have changed since the neighborhood meeting. And I was wondering if you can convey, is there anything besides the location of the house and the location of the driveway that's changed since the neighborhood meeting?
no, that was the primary change. The lot lines and the dimensions have not changed. It's just shifting the house and the driveway closer to this driveway.
I'm the owner adjoining Outlot A, so I'm wondering who I would refer to going forward to deal with the deed that has to be accompanying that Outlot A and being transferred to my property. So who in the
So
city?
you're
would
the
I-
owner of the property to the south.
To the south of Outlot A, yes.
Ken, how does that work? I don't really know.
For transferring the ownership?
Yeah.
There'll have to be deeds prepared from the owner of Outlot A to conveying it to the owner to the south, or or the adjacent owners.
And does the city help with that then, or?
We haven't worked out that detail, but yeah, we should help facilitate that, make sure it gets taken care of as part of the plat.
Because it'll affect me and my property as well as the property adjoining mine or next to mine on the east side that's
Right.
out, going to have outlet B attached to it as well. So any help you can provide, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Try that again. Anyone else wish to speak to this application?
Dennis Peterson, 7656 North Shore Trail North. Just a story to begin with about where those houses are. I've lived there for 74 years. That was my dad's land. Just about where that house is we lost cattle in there that kept right on sinking, and refilled that area with soil and stuff from the farm to stabilize it. We actually had it fenced off so we wouldn't have an accident there. There's probably a disc sitting down there too that is, who knows how deep it is. I was just concerned about what it is like underneath there. When we were kids, we used to take a pole and stick through, and once we get down about 2 feet, we could go down about 30 feet before we hit bottom. The other issue is I own that property with the ditches. When the township went through that, they restricted that to a one-party use because of the same situation of multiple people wanting to use it. The person who created the easements was not the owner. I am working on dissolving those that are non-perpetual. Property to the east of 7902, they do have a legitimate easement because that's the original one. And let's see. So, yeah, I guess that's what I got to say, unless there's anything else.
So to clarify it, Denny, just to help everybody up here, Outlot B, Denny is describing that 25-foot parcel down to the lake.
Right.
And Outlot B will be part of the deed that goes to him.
And also why those property lines are recessed to the south is because the marker that they measured off the other two properties was the old marker, which was 14 feet off, I believe. So those two were actually correct, A and B, but the other two were not ever corrected. And because down the line, everybody was changing their posts and things down the line. So on my side, I live at 7656. My property line moves south 14 feet on the north side. So that's a little history of living there forever. Any questions?
We're good.
Okay.
Before we continue on, let me clarify something here with this lot lines. As most of you know on the commission, I live probably about 6 houses to the east of this parcel. All of the parcels in this stretch are all off due to,
All along here, Chair?
they were platted and all the way down to where they go on the other side of the street. And I don't know what happens then because I don't know any of those neighbors. But they're all off, and so we had the as platted, and then Washington County came through and remeasured it and said, no, they're all off. So most of us have spent thousands getting judicial monuments in the as platted location that we all started with. So that's kind of the history, and it moves around exactly how many feet off we were. You know, if it was today and they did it all off a GPS, life would be grand, but I don't know what happened back then. And I don't know how far it goes in all the directions, but there's a lot of us that I know all the way from the first beige house at least to Dean. You're monumented, right? Yeah, at least to Dean's house, and Dean is
Not in here?
Two houses further from they are too.
East 7931. Right, yeah. So I know they're monumented at least down to there. I'm not quite sure how many more are. But they end up being exact, you go to court and it ends up in the exact same spot that we do. So that's just a little bit of history lesson on the lake, the 33 years I've been there. So back to the public hearing. Who else would like to speak to this application?
Are they disputing that? Is anybody disputing their marker at all at this point?
I don't think anyone's disputing the markers. It's been pretty black and white typically. Now that we're all, these would all just move this way. And so it doesn't matter much when you go way on the other side of me. There's a couple pie-shaped lots. They were much more interested in going to the west.
All right, thank you.
Excuse the interruption.
Sorry, ma'am.
No worries. Sherry Muller-Zegan, 7871 North Shore Trail. I'm across the street from the proposed development. I just want to express my concern around the fact that this is a protected watershed area. Was a protected wetlands, and always has been, even at the point where we actually considered purchasing the property and doing something with it. So at that time, we were told it was never going to be developed. I work for a nature center in St. Paul, so I'm not a tree hugger, but I am very astute and worried and concerned about the habitat and the wildlife that is living in this area. I'm concerned about the fact that it is a swamp and it's flooded right now. I'm concerned about the safety factor of someone living in a house built in the middle of a swamp, not to mention the mosquitoes, but it just can't be healthy at that, living in a house that's in the middle of a swamp area. I also question, since I live across the street and right next to the ravine, what that is going to do, what that development will do to the swamp and the water flow that comes through that area, goes through the area down the parcel that Denny was just referring to into Forest Lake. And there's fish spawning up in that area. They come up in the spring and they spawn and they go back, so I'm concerned about that. And not to mention the safety around a driveway being added to North Shore Trail on the other side on a sharp turn where we've had cars in our front yard that is missed or has potentially swerved out of the way from hitting someone coming around that corner. So I just see I have a lot of concern about this, and so I think I'm voicing my opinion so that those factors are built into your decisions as you go forward and think about and look at the actual neighborhood and the effect that this build will have on the environment, the wildlife, the habitat, the houses that are already there, and the safety of the folks who are driving North Shore and coming around that corner. So that's what I wanted to bring today.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comment. Anyone else wish to address this application?
Good evening. Josh Parker, 7881 North Shore Trail North. I just have a couple concerns that we had been brought up at the neighborhood meeting. Number one is the driveway and the location of the driveway. There's a lot of non-impervious material that's in that location. I have concerns of where that water's gonna go. Here again, living across the street, that water can flow into our house and have noticeably increased since the house that's existing there has already been built. Hoping that that flowage continues to go. However, piggybacking on what Sherry has is where is that water going to go? Will it go into that drainage ditch, into that easement, into the lake? How is that going to be managed? And I think that those are the biggest concerns with that. Here again, we looked at purchasing this lot many, many years ago, and we're told the exact same thing. We can't build on it. We thought about preserving it for wetlands. The same thing. So just our concerns with voicing with putting two houses that close together in that area, in that location, really could cause some issues with drainage and easements. So, thank you.
Anyone else wish to address this application? It's a public hearing.
Well,
But once again, I'll ask you to state your name and address for the record. You know, there's a lot of people at home watching us, like three.
right on. Chris Gaiovnik, 7902 North Shore Trail. I know that some people have talked about building on this property in the past and they couldn't, but they didn't hire someone to do a wetland delineation. They didn't hire someone to do a soil test and come back with the results and draw up plans that have drainage all factored in and get that approved by the wetland people. And this isn't on the wetland, the area that we're going to build. It's not touching the wetland whatsoever. Any runoff that's there now is gonna run off to the same place, just maybe a little higher elevation. And any culvert we put in, you know, as noted by Ken, would be pitched in such a way that the water will flow through there. So I don't see this changing anything for the wetland,
Thank you.
that's all.
One second, sir, please.
Chris?
While I've got you, where, on the map, where is the drainage that folks are talking about that they're concerned? There is a ditch that goes under, and is that,
I don't have access to that map like you guys
So,
do, but
yep, so you can,
there is a culvert under the
Susan.
driveway that's
Okay.
existing right now.
all right?
Over here.
And we just redrew the plans to have a longer driveway and a bigger driveway to turn around and address the safety issues that people want to be concerned about. And we moved the driveway probably, I want to say 12 feet from the existing driveway since we couldn't have a shared driveway.
so Susan, the 25-foot access where Outlot B will be, south of there?
No, up the house.
That's where the culvert, the road
Oh,
goes
there's a
across
culvert
the
under North
road
Shore
there.
there, yes.
And drains into that 25-foot.
Okay,
That whole wetland area back in the back channels through there. But that won't be changed.
okay. Looking at the topographic lines, much of Lot 1 drains back to the northwest before it comes through that ditch. And as you've got your proposed building pad, 906, 908, 904, there is a fairly significant amount of swamp. And I did drive by there today. The refrigerator's gonna go, right?
That's a what?
Never mind.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah, that's okay. So that has time to soak. But is there any other culvert across the road where you've got your proposed building pad that goes south to the lake?
No, just a proposed culvert under the driveway to keep the water flowing down the ditch line.
Yep, okay,
And then we have to stay 50 feet away from the wetland, and which is all on the proposal there, but everything pitches back towards that from that point
Okay.
of the house. I have a whole drainage plan on there.
yep. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Back to my ditch. I think I'm concerned about the extra water flowage because of the topography. There's going to be more water running. I'm concerned about the erosion in the ditch. It's going to be an issue. It's starting to lose its spot now. I think on the maps that you have, it has a blue line. The township got an easement, I believe it was a 33-foot easement for maintenance from all the way from there up to the circle on the development, I think it's North Shore Meadows, to the road. That ditch actually starts in my backyard, goes under the road, comes back out and heads to the lake, and the township had an easement to take care of that all the way down to the lake. So that should have already been established in the township records. Middle 80, 85, 86, I believe that was taken care of. So I'm wondering if you should consider maybe something for that ditch to stabilize it, a liner, culvert to the lake, or something to keep that from washing out.
So I'll give my commercial now, as long as we're still in the
Okay.
public hearing here. If you watch the April 22nd city council meeting, so just recently, they spent an hour, you got to go a little bit into it, but they spent an hour on what are they going to do in North Shore Trail. And in fact, the culvert that is the last house by mine, 70, where Ron and Carrie live, before the houses jump back as you go to the east, that's one of the culverts they show that's probably defunct. And they have culvert problems all up and down there. And the plan is, when they do redo it, is to replace them all with reinforced concrete culverts. So it's a kind of an interesting discussion. You know, it's like anything else. It's a little like watching paint dry when it's a city meeting. But, you know, they do cover it at great lengths of why they only want to pave it and some of the other stuff. So if you're, have trouble sleeping, it's about an hour presentation from the April 22nd. You can find it on the city website under the city meetings.
Because that culvert is failing, that's going underneath the road. I informed the town last year, and they said they were on it, and I did just reply back to see if there was any update on it, but I haven't received a reply. Because the end of it is caving in, and the dirt is starting to go in and heading to the lake, so. I just wanted to make sure that that was going to be taken care of in the process.
You make a note of that, Ken?
Culvert concerns.
And I have another story for you. My dad dug that ditch in 1945, and it was actually to get water from the lake to go to a watering pond just past that area there, about 100 yards in. And then the water actually flowed from there down to probably his property line, and then went to First Lake through that channel until they connected Hayward, is that Hayward, to North Shore Circle that was open there, and that's where the water used to run. When they connected the road, it started to build up. So the township in early 60s, luckily it was a dry year, they came in and reshaped that to get the flow to go to the lake, because it wouldn't flow to First Lake anymore. So my dad was the one that dug that in. And
Quite
it was
the
to get
historian,
water out of
Denny.
the lake for the cattle. Bullheads kept the pond clean. It was a good setup until we finally got the barn and water built, so that's my story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Keith Coonley from 7841 North Shore Trail. The corner of the southeast lot, the city's going to take that over as city right-of-way? What does the city plan to do with it? What's the expectations as the neighbors that we can expect to see with that property going forward?
I don't think there's any.
There's no
plan.
plans for any changes. There's just, if you look on this map, the property line comes all around here, and so our city street is on private property. By the Plat, with this being dedicated to the city, now all of this will be dedicated street right away for public purpose.
Meaning?
Meaning that,
Meaning the city legally owns it, or will
Right,
legally
you have
own
no plans to do anything with it,
it. We can never say never,
right?
but there's no imminent plans to put in a trail or widen the road or anything like that.
Have you determined what the sliver of property is on the very west side of that property?
Over here,
Yes.
that, that stays, that's
Because that's not part of this property, right?
correct. It's not, here's the property line, so there's a little strip of land there that
Someone else owns.
somebody else owns.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this application? Excuse me. Ken, do we have anyone online who wishes to speak?
Mr. Chair, I do not see anybody.
Any emails to be read in or any correspondence?
None since the updates I received from the Watershed District, which I spoke of during my presentation.
All right, that being said, one last call for anyone who wishes to speak to this application. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the public hearing at 7:41 PM. Commissioners, what would you like to do?
I'd make the motion to recommend to the city council approval of the preliminary plat and final plat for the PID 10.032.21.13.0030, plus the 15 conditions.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I would like to add a condition I would have liked to have added a condition 16,
Well, we can still do that.
that the deeds to the two outlots be put in place, or at least ready to file at the same time that
With the, may I, with the recording of the final plat?
thank you. Words, yes. And I apologize, I didn't jump in quick enough, but I think that that would be important to make sure that everybody, sometimes those transfers, they get put on a back burner. And in the interest of the city and in the interests of the property owners in question, I think making sure that those deeds are transferred at the time of recording would be important.
Kevin, would you accept
Commissioner
that?
Young, Mr. Chair, I'll withdraw my motion and change it, adding the 16th condition. I thought that was covered in there, so I apologize, I missed that, with the deeds to be transferred upon recording.
Thank you.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
And again, Mr. Chair, for the members of the audience here, again, that this is a recommendation, city council will make the final decision, and we have it penciled in for Tuesday, May 28th, right back here.
We held a public hearing for this, so there will not be a public hearing at the city council meeting, since we are the body that holds the public hearing. However, at the beginning of every city council meeting, there is a public forum. So if you wish to speak, it's right after, I believe, about the approval of the agenda. That is a public forum, and you can bring up any subject that you wish to discuss. Yes, Susan?
I think that there is more protection for the residents with the city owning now that drainage outlet, or that drainage outlot. The city cannot do drainage work on private property. So for any improvements previously to have been made, it would have been more challenging. Now with the city owning that outlot B,
Well, no,
you've got outlot B now.
no,
No, that goes to the residents.
That goes to the resident?
yes.
Okay.
But, Mr. Chair and
Yeah.
Susan,
Yeah.
all this becomes drainage and utility easement, which we don't.
Much
not
better.
have.
Yep,
And
okay.
also,
The township already has the deed.
well, we didn't find the record.
I have records.
Well, it'll be belts and suspenders then.
So anyway, the township, I mean,
Okay.
both sides, my side, they have a special one because they have the sewer line going through there. So they acquired, maintenance, easement to that property. Not through a perpetual easement. That's already been taken care of.
And Mr. Chair, if
Thank
I
you.
may, if there's members of the audience that wants to give additional comments before the city council meeting, and you can email me or call me, we can include those in the updated staff report before the, so it gets in the record for the city council.
It doesn't go to the property owner. This is gonna be city.
I was just clarifying that the parcel, the 25-foot parcel south of Outlot B is actually a private easement, it is not public easement.
My error, I apologize.
So that's where the confusion is. So I want to thank you all for coming. Good luck with
You
your
can
project.
stay, but you don't have to.
Actually, the next item about the environmental center is pretty cool.
You don't get out much, but we'll move on to item 6B for the revised site plan approval, Washington County Northern Environmental Center, 6065 Headwaters Parkway. Again, we will be making a recommendation to the city.
You want to let the room clear for a moment?
Got the Bruins score while we're doing it. Second period.
I had to watch the Stars games while I was in Austin.
Did he? Oh, I bet. That was a good game.
It's a way to break a mother's heart, is to have her daughter move to Texas and suddenly become a Dallas Stars fan. It's wrong in so many ways.
Let's bring it back to focus.
So-
Again, we will move on to item 6B, the revised site plan approval for the Washington County Northern Environmental Center at 6065 Headwaters Parkway. Again, Planning Commission, this will be a recommendation to the City Council.
And
I
it's not,
believe
and it's not a public hearing.
It's not a public hearing.
Right.
because we had that.
So as you introduced, Mr. Chair, this is a request for approval of a site plan revision for the Washington County Northern Environmental Center, which is on this property. And I'll pull up a better map. Let's see if this is the plat. I'll get one more map here. And the request before you this evening, or why it's before you this evening, is when the county received their approvals last year, that was only for this part of the site, and this is turned north is this way. Apologize because of the way the plans are laid out. And at that time, they knew they were going to try to make this road connection of Headwaters Parkway out to Highway 61, but they had not received all the plan approvals and had not dotted all the i's and crossed the t's to submit those plans and get those approved by MnDOT. And so the approved site plan essentially stopped right here for all this. The projects was, again, approved last August and by the commission and city council. Construction started in October or November. They've been going great guns most of the winter. But now they are now requesting amendment, approval of an amendment to their site plan to allow the construction of Headwaters Parkway. So that is why this is before you this evening. The city code says once a site plan is approved by the city, typically the planning commission, any major revisions to an approved site plan need to go to the planning commission for a recommendation and then to the city council for final approval. I would argue when we're talking about updating the zoning code that maybe revisions to site plans could just be done at the planning commission. It doesn't seem necessary, sidebar, that the council review them when they didn't review the initial site plan to begin with. But that's what the code says now.
You digress?
I digressed. I flared a little bit, but thank you. So the proposal is to build this public road, and to be clear, Headwaters Parkway, yeah, I'll try to get to a better map here. This somewhat shows it. This will be a public street. It was always intended to be a public street. It'll be the fourth leg of this intersection where Headwaters Parkway is with the traffic signal. Come in and then go to the north line of their site, which will be right, this is, when they platted the property, they left the right of way. So the road will go here to this property line to serve the city property, which we hope eventually will be a new public works facility. So again, their public road, it had, at this submittal, had what was called 95% plan approval by the state. The city engineer had a few comments. They are working on those. One of the things I was most concerned about and had worked or alerted them early on was the need for landscaping in this area. Again, we did not have an approved landscaping plan because this wasn't part of the project plans with phase one. The intent of this landscaping is, especially for southbound, going westbound vehicles, that this provides screening because there are houses right down here to the south. So for this home and down the line. And you'll see in my comments on page 73, they clearly show landscaping. I'm not convinced that it's all 100% needed to be for opaque. We're striving to have it 90% opaque for the entire year. So one of my conditions is I'm recommending these 3 trees here, which are, what are they, service berries, which are more a decorative tree, be changed to some kind of a coniferous tree. The lighting plan that they are proposing does meet our city standards, and this shows that it's standard light, and there would be lights along the new road. They are proposing a 10-foot wide trail along the west side of the road, again, to connect in to the trail system here in the crossing. An important element of this project, and the county understands this, is that there will be major changes to the intersection and the traffic signal system to accommodate the fourth leg. And I'll touch on it in the conditions. Well, I'll just read it. We are recommending that one condition be that Washington County be responsible for all the costs of this road all the way through. It's their county project to serve them. In the end, yes, the city will get some action or actions. Poor word, access to the north. But with this project, including all the changes for the signal system, striping, signage, construction, inspections, that the county be responsible for all those costs. And that's actually condition 7 in your conditions. So really, it's straightforward, other than we have to go through this exercise of having this revised site plan reviewed by the Plan Commission, approved by the City Council. So in short, and just today I got an updated set of plans that they're addressing more of the engineer conditions. I haven't studied them, and we just got them at 4 o'clock, but we will take those to the council. They are working with the watershed district to meet all their concerns. Again, this was all laid out because there's one little wetland here that they have to deal with. Otherwise, all the major wetlands are over here, and they've been planning for this all along. So it's not really a surprise to see staff. It's just now going through the formality of getting it approved and getting the details worked out. So we're recommending as a staff approval of the revised plans. This is in the recommendation, starting on page 75, subject to the 15 conditions that I've listed in staff report. And with that, I will take questions.
Questions for staff?
They're maintaining that then? Complete plow and service and everything else?
For now, yes.
Until,
There will probably be some discussions if and when the Public Works facility goes into the north of who will plow it, but since they're the only user, or will be the only user for the foreseeable future, it will be their responsibility.
okay.
Kevin?
Ken, I noticed you had an intersection plan there on Forest Boulevard and Headwaters Parkway.
Yep.
I'm trying to determine, is the county putting in turn lanes?
Yes, thank you.
For left and right and
Yep.
in and out?
Yes, so there will be, they have to widen Highway 61 here, have a right turn lane into the site, and they have to do some widening here to have a left turn lane to come into the site. And then those are all MnDOT requirements. And these plans don't show them well, but yes, to answer your question.
Thank you.
Tim?
I was gonna touch on the landscaping. It says that the required landscaping was considerably more than the proposed, on page 73. If you could just briefly touch on that. I mean, it is a large parcel and county owned.
Oh, the first part of the landscaping was for the landscaping of the overall site.
Okay.
The last paragraph at the bottom of the page touches on the change to the landscaping, which is the addition of these trees, which are, so the bulk of that talks about the landscaping around the entire site. Sorry for the confusion, but the focus is really on this landscaping here.
Susan?
And thank you for introducing the landscaping, because how are they going to maintain that landscaping, and how is it going to be watered? It's cool if they put it in and then it dies in 3 years. And it needs to be maintained, because we've seen what happens when we allow the developer or the HOA to maintain the trees on the other side of Headwaters Parkway. So what are we going to do to learn and make sure that those trees are maintained to provide the screening for the residents?
Maybe we propose another condition to specifically call that out. I had not thought of that.
Okay. Other questions of staff?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Dan.
So while we're on this landscaping and these trees, I see where the trees are shown here, and it's to create this screen from the residential. Show with your cursor where that residential is and how,
Right.
just that spot right there.
Well,
is
these
the-
are all
They're all-
along, there's 4 homes along here. which-
Okay, so you're screening the view of that part of the road is all. I mean, they're still gonna see the building back there, aren't they?
Yes, my biggest concern is if there's vehicles heading south,
Oh, I see, the headlight issue.
the headlight issue. yes.
Okay, that's what okay, let's go back to the picture with the,
So if a
so
car
when you
was
want,
coming south,
so then I was looking back at your table that you brought up before about the required versus proposed, and
Yep.
they seem woefully under the required. And all we're doing is suggesting adding 3 or 4 trees. Why not suggest more to really make sure that that corner is covered and those people aren't getting headlights in their house? I mean, why just suggest 3 or 4? Why not 10? Or
Well-
you show them going up to the corner or
Well, I
something.
think
Is there?
they're only changing 3 or 4. They're adding like 13, 14 trees
yeah,
there.
all these would be new, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The concern is we can't have trees getting too close to the intersection because of visibility.
Understood down there, yes.
So where I was proposing is these would be replaced with some other kind of, lack of a better term, pine or coniferous tree
Right.
to beef up this area. Now, if the concern is this would not be enough, could they add some more back in here?
And even continuing toward the corner as the road turns toward the recycling center, not down there, not by the intersection,
up here?
but up in here, because as they come back down that road with the headlights, because of the curve in that road, the half of that building there is gonna be, or a quarter of that building is gonna be getting a lot of headlights, if that's the reason for these trees anyway. I mean, I just think they're so woefully under the required, why not have them, if you add 4 trees, why not add 10 trees?
And it is an environmental center.
It's an
One would
environmental center.
Think
Yeah,
that,
there you go.
that we are trying to replace trees in this area. Good carbon sink.
If I may interject, is there a number that the commission wants to discuss and be comfortable? I was recommending replacing these 3 with 4 to 5 trees.
Can you
getting
slide over
closer
your
down
drawing
to
a
the-
little bit for a sec? And I would just draw a straight line where the drive lane is, if someone's driving on the right side of the road exiting the property, and you just draw a straight line out where their headlights are gonna be go back further to the right on that drawing by that 15 or even
Yep.
further, because those headlights there are even aimed to the, below that property. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but see, now we've got a curve, so these are,
Right, so if you imagine how the headlights are pointing out to the
Wow.
left down there,
right.
I would want to make sure that's all covered. That's my only thought. Yeah.
So most of the curve on the way east.
Yeah,
Would that be correct, east?
South.
going to the south, as you keep going around the road to the north is to our right. I mean, going to the north is to our right here. So yeah, start where your cursor,
Kind of hand.
you don't have to be as far over as where your cursor is, right? But where that Headwaters Parkway arrow is, maybe there,
Yep.
and maybe not that far, but
No?
you certainly want to go further, I think, than where they're shown
So
now.
just to be clear, it's more in here or a double row behind these?
Oh, I don't know that you need well, I'm not a tree expert, so to know what's gonna cover opacity and in that, but I would at least show, someone with landscaping can pick out the trees and whatever, but they should go around, further down around that corner to the north.
Especially since eventually it'll be a public works facility, and those are going to be dump trucks going through at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to plow roads.
That's even more reason to do it.
Are we clear, wait, hold on one second.
We like trees.
I know, we're all tree lovers. Are we clear where Don would like it to go to?
I think if I'm reading it right, Don, it's from, if you're starting here and driving around this curve, you want to make sure if the vehicle's pointed,
Right.
so we got to get maybe some more down in here.
Down in there, and whether they just keep going in a straight line down or follow the curve of the road, I don't know that that matters. Whatever breaks that headlight. Yeah.
Tim? If you look at page 81, that's a considerable size grass there. Is there any reason why we couldn't do a couple rows of trees? So if you look at, I'm looking at the actual aerial shot. I mean, one row of trees along that roadway right along there doesn't seem like a lot of cover when you have that much ground. I think you could do a couple rows of trees in there, and you have plenty of room.
This somewhat shows it, doesn't show, this is the overall plan, so it'd be down in here.
Yeah, page 81 though, the aerial shot.
No, I didn't print that, so which,
Okay, sorry.
We've all got it.
But if you
is
look
it
at
this one?
Yes, that one right there.
Okay.
So if you look at that corner, that's a sizable amount of property. I don't see any reason they couldn't put a couple rows of trees in there. It is an environmental center to
Yeah,
have some
there's
trees
room. I don't
along
think there's
that
a
house
question
there. I
about
know if
that.
I was the neighbor and there was open grass, I'd want it planted with trees. Especially like you said, with the possible addition of a city lot next to it. If we could get some more greenery in there in that corner instead of grass, it might help.
So if I can summarize then, we're looking to get to the curve in the road, and we're looking to make it a more dense tree line for opacity. Is that correct?
So
Yes.
beef up this area.
Yes.
Yeah, all the way down to where it says Headwaters down there. A little, right, a little farther to the right,
Yeah. down.
right there.
Right there.
Yep.
About there looks good.
And as long as we're in that recommendation, then let's make sure that there is, with provision to maintain and appropriately water during establishment.
Get them far enough off the road so the salt don't kill them.
Exactly.
If I,
Kevin?
oh,
So, first, I'm not a landscaping expert. What is the difference between an understory and an overstory tree or shrub?
understories are usually smaller diameter and more of a ornamental tree, where an overstory might be an oak or a big maple or
Okay.
even larger
And
coniferous
so our
trees.
requirement is 454 overstories, or understories, and we're letting them get by with 81. And we have a requirement for 151 overstories, and we're letting them get by with 64. My
That-
question is, why are we doing that? And if I were in those houses, and I was looking out, sitting in my backyard, staring at that building, I would be not very happy. So my question is, why can't they plant a whole bunch of trees over on that side to give those people in their backyards, when they're sitting out enjoying the beautiful backyards they have, privacy, so they're not staring at a environmental center? And why are we not putting more trees and shrubs along Forest Boulevard, so that when you're driving down the road, you don't look and see this ugly, building sitting there, where you could do nice trees and stuff to kind of give it a nice shade or a nice screening, which we require every other business in our town to do. So I don't think we should let them get away with not planting more trees or having more screening or more shrubs, but that's my opinion.
Okay. Other comments? Tim?
On that park-like note that you're describing, can you just briefly talk about the extension of the trail? Why are we extending a walking trail that way? What's the benefit for getting the trail that way? I know we recently had an accident on the highway with kids crossing the highway there. Is there a reason or a benefit for crossing the trail across the highway? And if so, what is the walking trail for?
Mr. Chair, first of all, this is a signalized intersection, so hopefully it'll be a lot safer than the one where the accident happened.
Encourage people to use that signalized.
I think the ultimate goal, long-term, get the trail built up to this point.
Okay.
And if and when the city builds a public works facility up here, as part of that, continue the trail all the way up to County Road 50, somehow parallel to the highway or somehow through the site to get out to the north.
So that you've got a solid trail that makes sense to that signalized intersection.
And not have to use the crosswalk that's there now where the accident happened.
At the current time, I don't see anywhere for the walking trail.
Well,
It doesn't go anywhere,
it
but we
does- it
always
won't.
build what we can,
Right,
even when we do
nowhere.
development,
We
we'll
always
bring it to
put
the edge of the development
Yep.
and
Sounds
expect the next developer
Takes it.
takes it.
Correct. Because if we don't have the county build it now, guess who's gonna build it later? If the city wants.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And Ken, the reason for my concern about maintenance is we had a conditional use permit down on the Vinco property that required it to be screened, and they have taken down those trees. And so I just want to make sure that this, we say, and yes, you will maintain those. Make sure that there is, adequate infrastructure to maintain the trees.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I was going to propose a condition similar to something that county shall be responsible for maintenance of all the landscaping on the entire site. It's blanket coverage over everything. And then we'll revise a condition about, which is 13E, about the planting of the trees.
And to be maintained in number and condition as required.
Per the approved plan.
Thank you. That way they don't get chop half of them down in 20 years.
Just don't plant a lot of ash trees. So, Kevin, I want to come back to you for a minute with this additional trees. You're suggesting all the way down between Forest Boulevard and the new Headwaters Parkway to have some trees in
Nope.
there?
Almost along the boulevard here?
Well, I'm just speaking, if it were me, and it's not, but we do have residents there, and it is gonna be a very busy place. And, so I think it's really important to have trees like we've already discussed, around that curve. I don't know why they just can't come all the way down to the pond. I don't see any problem with that. But across the front, I guess, why do we need to have the front so visible, and wide open? I mean, I get it, it's an environmental center, but what goes on there is not very fun in terms of the traffic that's gonna be coming in and out, the trucks, vehicles all day long, those sort of things. But does it need to be that visible from the front that we can't have them put a bunch of trees down the front of Forest Boulevard to make it look nice?
I think that a bunch of trees would be good. However, these are gonna be residential vehicles. These are my car, your car, whatever. And I do wanna make sure that they know where they need, what they're looking for, so enough to see it. And the county's done a decent job, to their credit, that the front of the building that's facing Forest Road is going to be, well, better than a couple of the other businesses that are along there. And that most of the messy stuff is gonna be in the back, hidden by the building.
Sure.
But I think that it would be good to have significantly more landscaping as associated with an environmental center, and I would love to see along Forest Road, once we've we've cleared that curve
Right.
to block, to have things that are natives, or things that are the understory things like June berries, or some of the native low cherries, or the native crab apples, or things like that.
Yeah, well, even down on the backside by the retaining wall, I mean, you have, you know, very few trees between that and the wetlands there. Why couldn't you bring the trees all the way up along that whole wetland? I mean, they're supposed to give us 454. We're getting 81. They're supposed to give us 151, we're getting 64. I mean, that's 600 trees, we're getting 140. Trees, I mean, to me, that seems not reasonable. But are we getting more park dedication money or anything like that? Because it's county, right?
So,
We're getting a brand new road that will eventually serve the public works facility.
Sure.
is there a monument sign out by the road, Ken? I don't remember from the
No,
plat.
the only monument sign that we're gonna have is right about here.
So it'll
it'll
be
be just
like one of those brown signs or blue signs that say
Because
environmental
once they
center?
turn off of the new road, that's a private driveway into the environmental center. There might be a one directional sign way out here to say left turn.
That'd just be one of the metal signs, like it says airport this way. And
What are
some
we
of the others.
planning on the north side of that place again? City,
Up here,
yeah, north of it, yeah,
hopefully eventually a new public works facility.
New Public Works. You know, and I know there's some trees there, but there's not many trees there where they could plant a bunch of trees for our public, between that side and the Public Works Department as well. We're just saying, to me, whatever we decide, but we're supposed to get a whole lot of trees, and we're not. This is Forest Lake. It's starting to become not Forest Lake, because everywhere you look, people are cutting down trees, right? And we used to have a rule, I thought, where if you took down a tree, you had to plant 2 or 3 or something like that, and I don't see that being enforced anywhere. I see people along the lake clear-cutting lots on the lake that they're not supposed to. I see people in their backyards clear-cutting trees, and nobody's enforcing anything with replanting trees, so we have an opportunity to at least get some trees.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just speaking out loud, whatever you guys want to do.
No, when
I'm
I
okay
saw
with it.
that table, I thought the same thing. I thought, wow, that's a big discrepancy between what's required and what's proposed.
And if they put irrigation in of any sort to water, which I'm hoping we require, they're gonna grow just fine.
Okay.
Just my thought.
So the question is, for the commissioners, that the sign, it seems that everything else is fine. It's just a matter of the trees. And so do we want to do that as a couple of additional conditions? Or do we want to see the plan back here again, which would require then a motion to table, which is not going to be favorable, but.
So this doesn't go back to council then, or doesn't
it
go to
does.
council? Yeah,
Does.
so council could still say no, right,
Correct.
to what we've added?
Right.
Go ahead, Sue. Oh, sorry.
Susan?
What if we were to say, which of the conditions is the landscaping condition? I'm sorry, Ken. I apologize.
13E towards the bottom of page
Okay.
76.
So, to reword 13E, to
Well,
say,
and if I may, Susan, right above that 13D is a real generic.
yes, as may be required by the city.
If we want to call out what changes, then there's an opportunity.
Planning Commission, are we willing, do we need 100% of the required trees, or are we willing to say at least 80% of the required overstory and understory trees?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to say it, is, tell them at least 80%. I
Well,
mean,
if
that's
I
gonna be
can interject,
120 overstory trees.
and the table that's in the middle of page 73, that's left over from the approval from last year. That, it was just showing, and essentially, the city cut a lot of slack. Part because of the
So we
wetlands.
approved that.
We approved that. As that table is shown right there, that's on there. So, you're right, Commissioner Miller, this is an opportunity to get more trees to get that better, make it more, and maybe I don't wanna say why it was the way it was. Part of it is, I know they were just running out of room when they're on the site. A lot of this south part is wetlands. But you're right, this whole area has a potential for tree planting. And maybe some trees, a boulevard effect along Forest Boulevard is certainly an option. I don't know that we could get to those numbers, but there certainly could be more plantings, trees and shrubs than this little bit here.
Ken, you got a number in mind?
Oh, now you're gonna put me on the spot. I would, what is this, this 12 or 13? I would think between this and here, we might be able to get to 40 or 50 trees. Guessing, quick.
That's in addition to the 64 that they're proposing on there, you're
Yeah,
saying?
the 64 is what's going in up primarily around the building.
Okay, so this would be an additional 50.
Correct.
So we're up at 110 trees roughly,
That's
which is
my-
75% of, I mean, I like Susan's way of saying 75% of the required, but.
So, yeah, and let's go with that. Let's say that such landscape changes required by the city shall meet 75% of the normally required overstory and understory plantings.
Now, that's gonna be a significant increase in the understory. I mean, that's gonna be 300 trees as opposed to 81 trees.
Or,
300.
but
Or it could
that
be
can be,
shrubs.
it can be shrubs.
Right.
Yes.
Shrub-
and
That's only shrubs. yeah,
Right.
Okay,
And-
just,
And again, with an environmental center, you've got an opportunity to put things like beautyberry and juneberry and some of those natives that
yeah.
would enhance an environmental center. Since they are going to be having tours and classes and things there, it works into a natural thing of sustainability.
Do a nice park area. I mean,
Yeah.
that, like you say, with the tours and stuff, that,
And just with that, we also want to have the emphasis along here for the screening purposes.
Yeah.
I
So
think,
if-
I think those should come all the way down to that wetland almost. I mean,
Okay, so wherever they can fit them in, but certainly in here, and then maybe some along
Yep.
Forest,
Yes,
okay, and then work with staff on a final plan before,
yes.
got it.
And that gives you and the county a little bit of flexibility.
Okay, I think I've got, meeting 75% of the normal planting requirements for the site,
For
with,
overstory and understory.
yeah, with this emphasis
Yes.
as first, most important point of
Yes.
emphasis.
Any other discussion regarding this application?
We just need the continuous maintenance.
And that's in there at
Yeah.
13B or whatever it was there,
No,
or C, 13C.
that's part of it.
Yeah,
But I was also suggesting a condition, that the county be responsible for maintaining all landscaping, number and conditions per the approved plans. That could be I guess a 13G.
Yes,
I don't want to tell you how to make your motion, but that's,
no, 13G, that would be a good 13G. County to be responsible for maintenance of
all landscaping.
all landscaping to maintain
Number and condition
number and condition required in the, this is CUP?
per the approved plans.
Oh, good.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what you meant.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Put
you.
'em in mine.
Other discussion?
Kevin?
nope, I'm good.
Chair then is looking for a motion to recommend.
I move approval of, oh, gotta get all the way up here. We're all the way.
75.
Well, of the revised site plan submitted by Washington County for the Northern Environmental Center, with the addition of the city required landscaping shall meet 75% of the normally required understory and overstory vegetation, and with the addition of a G, I think it's 3G?
13G.
13G, that the county shall, help me again,
County sh-
maintain.
Shall be responsible for the maintenance of all landscaping materials, number and condition per the approved plans.
Thank you.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second discussion. I have one comment. Ken, you have two number 13s.
God, I hate that when that happens.
You got,
He does.
it should be, so really should be 14, 15, 16.
Yes, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Again, this will, scheduled to go to the council on the 28th.
All righty. Okay, we'll move to staff updates. Is Councilperson Roberts online tonight?
No, I spoke to him today, and he thought with Mother's Day coming up and being in the floral business, he might be a little busy this evening and unable to attend, and so, no.
All right, so Ken, what do you have for us?
As the agenda says, Mr. Chair, the next meeting on the 22nd is canceled. I do know we will have a meeting on June 12th. That's the first, be the first meeting in June. I know of at least one application and potentially a second one. Really, the only other update of interest is the zoning code update with the architecture and the reorganization that you heard, and the realigning. I want to say rejiggering, but that doesn't sound right. That was approved by the council, so that's in effect now. Not, again, no text changes, just numbering, reorganizing. Hopefully later this year, we will have the time and the staff to tackle starting some of the text changes, but I don't know if you've heard, but Jamie, our Parks and Rec coordinator, resigned from the city, and last Friday was her last day. So we are now once again short staff, and so Abby and Dawn and others are helping with Arts in the Park and some of those duties. So there will be some other things that we'll just have to wait a little bit until we get set.
Questions for Ken? Can I have, Kevin?
Just update, anything new with the GONE proposal with the downtown area? Okay.
Not a peep.
Okay.
It's my understanding that the council is talking about revisions to the boat launch.
I've heard that. I haven't studied it or been in any of the meetings, so I can't comment more than that.
Okay.
Ken, I have this resolution to sign, and I see we have a city clerk now, Jolene.
Yes,
Check.
we do.
That name sounds familiar.
She had worked for the city up to about 6 years ago,
Remember her.
and now has come back.
Yay.
That's probably why. And she's a Forest Lake resident. Yeah, she's been a very good asset so far.
So we have one of the positions filled. I'm not gonna ask how many we're missing, unless you wanna come out of retirement.
No, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Ken? All right, Kevin, anything?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Tim?
Nope.
Susan?
No, sir.
Don?
No.
Jesse?
Nope.
Okay.
Chair has nothing. So with that, Chair is looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all for your time and your service this evening.